Hello there. Thank you for joining us today. As you're coming in the webinar room, we welcome you. My name is Marcia Butler. I am the webinar director at Advice Chaser. Before we introduce our guest and get started, I need to do a bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars, such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles are expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. We're thrilled to bring you today's educational presentation. Attendees are muted, but we do encourage you to go ahead and ask questions and leave comments in the chat box. And let me go ahead and turn that on now so people can do that. The presenter will answer those queries during or after the webinar today as appropriate. And if you ask a question in the chat box and we're not able to get to it, go ahead and leave your phone number as well. And we're happy to reach out to you after today's event to make sure that gets addressed. We want this experience to be as educational as possible, so please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. Well, I would love to introduce you to our presenter today. Before embarking on a career in the travel industry, Denise Williams spent 20 plus years traveling throughout the United States, Europe, and Australia as a strategic marketing and business development executive with the world's leading healthcare and medical device manufacturers. As a travel advisor and principal with Williams Global Travel, an independently owned Dream Vacations franchise headquartered in Missouri City, Texas, Denise now represents the world's leading travel suppliers, where she and her support team diligently work to make your dream vacations come true. And this is a fun webinar today. We're really excited to have you here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn over the time to you, Denise.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. And we're going to talk about cruising through inflation. And according to a recent survey done by Expedia.com, about 46% of the respondents said that taking a vacation was even more important now versus pre-pandemic. And about half of the folks said that the reason for that was because they just needed a change of scenery. Another, like 49% said that they really needed to take a vacation now for their like mental and physical well-being. And then another like 46% said that they just needed they had this overwhelming desire to make up for less time. So the desire for travel, the desire for vacation is definitely there. Half of the respondents, however, said that inflation was having an impact on their travel plans.
All right. So I'm hearing that there's a lot of demand for it, but people are looking maybe to save a little bit more on vacations, even though there's a high demand for them.
Right, absolutely. And if people are feeling that prices seem way higher than they were last year, those feelings are true. I mean, everything really is more expensive, whether it's, your hotel, whether it's your airfare, everything just really is more expensive this year. But one thing that has been true and continues to be true is that a cruise vacation tends to represent about a 30% savings over a comparable land vacation. So when you think about, taking a vacation, and you're thinking about, cruising, and maybe you're not thinking about cruising, which, could be very, very true. Actually only about 15% of, the US population has ever been on a cruise. So the majority of people have never cruised. It really is something that I think you should think about, not just for the financial savings, but just for the quality of the vacation experience that a cruise can offer. And then for many people, once again, since more than likely you have not been on a cruise, if you think of cruises, um, a lot of people, if you're of a certain age, you probably think like the Love Boat, which was a princess cruise,
Oh,
or
right. Yeah, I remember that well.
right. Or if you are, of a certain demographic, maybe you think about Virgin Voyages, because Virgin Voyages, that cruise line was featured on last season's The Bachelorette. So they were on that cruise ship. So maybe that's your experience with when you think about cruises. Or maybe you think of Carnival cruises, which would certainly makes sense because Carnival is the big player in the marketplace. They've got about 45% market share. So if you're thinking about any of those types of cruises, you're thinking about an ocean cruise. And that definitely is a category of cruising, but that is just one category of cruising. So if you're thinking like, I'm not interested in a cruise because I have no desire to be on vacation, like in this enclosed space with, 2,000 or 3,000 or some of the new bigger ships, 10,000, like other people, maybe a river cruise would be something that would be of more interest to you. Because a river cruise, you're not going to be on a ship with thousands of other people. You're going to be on a ship with hundreds of other people. And hundreds, it could be under 100, or it could be 100, 200. Pretty much it's not going to be more than 300 people. And when we're thinking about a river cruise, pretty much any place, or at least many places that have a river, potentially have a cruise line going down it. So whether it's the Nile or the Danube or the Rhine or the Rhone or the Mississippi River or the Ohio River, there are cruise liners that go on vacations along there. There are wine cruises that just travel along the coast of California, where you can stop, you get off, you go to different vineyards. So, there's a lot more to cruising and types of cruising than you might realize. And there are also expedition cruises. So now certain expedition cruises, maybe you're on the ship with 10 people, 20 people, you're going to Antarctica, you're going to, the Galapagos Islands, you're in specially designed expedition cruise ships. So there are lots of different types of things that are cruises. So that's one thing you might want to think about. And then when you're thinking about cruising, also, just like with the hotels, cruises are targeting different demographics. So if you're land-based vacations, if you're typically staying at at a Four Seasons, then you might want to choose a luxury cruise, or a luxury river cruise. If you are, accustomed to staying at, like at a Hilton Garden Inn, maybe you want to go with more of a contemporary cruise line. So, so I guess my point is, all cruise ships are not designed the same. They're not designed to appeal to the same, type of customer, the same type of client, the same type of vacation experience. And then dependent on what your vacation is, just because you say, oh, I'm accustomed to, staying at a Four Seasons, it doesn't necessarily mean that a Royal Caribbean isn't the right cruise ship for you, and Royal Caribbean is considered an upscale contemporary cruise line, but it might mean that when you're on that Royal Caribbean cruise or that Carnival cruise or that Princess cruise, maybe you should be staying in a suite. You should not be staying in an ocean view cabin. So there's just lots and lots of stuff to take into consideration. And one of the big, I guess, broad considerations when you're looking at a contemporary cruise line versus a river cruise or some of the luxury cruise lines, it's really the focus. Like many of the contemporary cruise lines, so the big ships, the focus is the ship. You can get to a port and many people decide like they're just not going to even get off the ship because everything that they want to do is on board the ship. You've got your Broadway shows on the ship. You've got your zip lines on the ship. You've got your roller coasters, on the ships. It's all about the ship. A river cruise, however, or an expedition cruise, it's about the destination. So some of the river cruises, every day you wake up, you're in a new city and you're getting off the ship, you're doing excursions. And typically with a river cruise, those excursions are included in the price of the cruise. So you'll decide, do you want a walking excursion? Do you want to go, to visit a family and, cook with them? So it's all a very different kind of orientation, and it's all about the type of vacation that you want to have. And pretty much whatever experience you want, you can get that through your cruise experience. If you want something that's more adventurous, if you want something that's more relaxing, if you want to go as a family, if you want to go as a couple, whatever your desires are, more than likely those desires can be met via a cruise, and you also are going to get that additional savings versus a land-based vacation. And this to me is one of the most important cost savings things to keep in mind as it relates to a cruise. Cruise fare pricing is dynamic. So you might be familiar with like the airlines, like their fare pricing is dynamic, but with cruises as well. So the price is always, changing. Unlike, however, with the airlines, you can take advantage of those changing prices. So let's say you decide, okay, I want to go on an Alaskan cruise in June of 2025. And we are actually accepting bookings for 2025. And as a general rule, booking early is always better. But you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to lock in pricing today for this trip that I'm not going to take until 2025. We've already established the fact that inflation is high, prices are high. Like, who knows what's going to happen in the world? Something could happen and pricing can, go down. So I want to wait. I want to wait and see what's going to happen. Because cruise fare pricing is dynamic, my suggestion would be go ahead once you found the location and the dates, go ahead, lock that in. You will have to pay some, type of deposit to lock that in, but then ask your travel advisor to set a cruise fare watch. So until you've made final payment, and final payment is generally not until, 3 months or so prior to your cruise date. If the fare goes down, you can lock in that lower price. So let's say you book your cruise for June of 2025, and you are paying $1,000. Okay, you get a fare watch, or your travel advisor, it lets you know, hey, pricing has gone down to $700. You can lock in that $700. And then let's say, 3 months later, the fare has, gone back up, to $1,500. You are still locked in at that $700 price. So there's just really no reason to wait, because when you wait, there is the possibility that the cabin that you want, it won't be available. It's possible that the dates that you want won't be available, because like the days when you could wait until you were very close to the cruise date and they would have all these, great deals. Those days are pretty much done, because one of the things that the cruise lines did during that, like, year and a half when they weren't able to sail, they really did a lot of investments in their IT. So now they are doing like a much better job of monitoring, like their metrics and adjusting pricing as you go along. I don't know if this is true, but let's say if, because of all the things that are happening, like, with banking right now, if that caused people to stop booking. Like their little metrics would say, oh, by this date, X number of people should have booked. That didn't happen. So we're going to drop the fare to encourage people like to book. And then when things are looking good and the fares go back up, then the pricing is going to go back up. So decide where you want to go. Book it as far in advance as possible. Set your fare watch so that you can take advantage of any drops in pricing, and wait until very close to the date for final payment before you make that final payment. Because once you make final payment, everything is locked.
It's done.
Can't make those changes.
So with this price drop and being able to lock in that lower price, is that for every single cruise in general, or is this just through specific programs?
It's typically with your larger cruise lines, so not so much with your expedition cruise lines, and sometimes not with your some of your luxury cruise liners, but definitely the big six in the marketplace. And that's something, it might be possible for you to do on your own, but I know it's something that you can do with your with your travel advisor. So as you are making your travel plans and you're working with your travel advisor, that might be one of the questions that you want to ask. Does your travel advisor have the type of software, that allows them to connect with the pricing, to connect directly with the pricing from the cruise lines, so that they will have that particular notification? Because, all travel agents don't have access to that.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to cruise perks.
Okay, so so the cruise fare pricing, number one perk. Other perks, there is a very, strong possibility that as you're going on your vacation, that you are not going to have to include an airfare component to it. About 65% of the US population is within driving distance of a port. So if you don't have to fly, that is not only a huge money savings, that's typically a huge aggravation savings. So there are just lots and lots of ports, lots and lots of places. Also, one of the promotions that happens all the time, especially with your luxury cruise lines and with your river cruises, free and discounted airfare promotions are going on. So let's say you are taking you're taking a cruise along the Danube. Quite often there is going to be some promotion where, from certain, airlines, or from certain, destinations, and there will be a list of, okay, these are the airports that you would have to leave from. Maybe you get free airfare to wherever it is that you're going, or maybe they're having a promotion where you get, $299, like airfare to this particular destination. And with airfare being so expensive, that can be a huge, huge savings for you. Also a major advantage of cruising, and this is similar to an all-inclusive resort, everything is included in the price. So you've got your room, you've got your meals, you've got your entertainment, often you have your excursions, it's all one price. So unlike, some vacations where, okay, you're there and then you are spending, $50 on breakfast and $200 on dinner, everything is included in the price of the cruise. And then the other thing that is at least important, to me, is the service that you get on a cruise. A couple of the cruise lines have changed this, but most of the cruise lines are still, providing room service twice a day. And some of the hotels have still not returned to daily room service. Some of the hotels are still like, you don't, if you're not staying more than 3 days, you don't get room service at all, or you get room service, like every other day, or room service every third day. Cruise lines, you are getting room service, every day, often twice a day. And of course, if you need something special, they are there to help you. So I thought I'd walk you through a couple of examples to show the value that you can get from a cruise. So in example number one, we're looking at 4 couples that have decided they want to take a little mini vacation. So all of them are saying, basically the same thing. They're looking for a long weekend getaway, so like a Thursday to Monday kind of thing. They're looking for a little getaway that's going to be a mix of like a little romance and relaxation and fun. They're all looking to travel sometime in that August to September, time frame. And they've all said they've got a budget of about $1,500. So let's take a look and see what happens. All right. So we're going to look at the Lees. And they decide that they are going to go on a long weekend to Vegas. Okay. So, and they are traveling from Houston. Their airfare for their 2 nonstop economy tickets, $984. They spend 4 nights at the Las Vegas Hilton, which is a 4-star hotel, had an 8.4 rating. They spent about $800 on meals and beverages. And I will say, like Las Vegas, I don't, depending on how old you are, you may or may not remember this, but like way back in the day where you could go to Vegas and you could get like a steak dinner for like $10, those days are over. So that is not happening anymore. So I think 800 is a conservative estimate for, for their meals. And then for entertainment, they just, they spend their time at the casinos. They go to a couple of shows. And these are just, a couple of minor shows. These are not, oh, we're going to see Adele, or, we're seeing Celine Dion. I mean, these are just, like a comedy show, a Cirque du Soleil show. And so they end up for their long weekend spending $27.95. So, definitely they overspent their budget. Okay, now we look at the Johnsons. Okay, they decide that they're going to take a 4-night Western Caribbean cruise out of Galveston. Okay, because they live in Houston, they're able to drive to the port. So for the 2 of them, and this pricing was quoted as of February 4th. So just by the way, the examples, the people that I'm talking about, the people aren't real. The pricing, however, is real as of that particular day, as of February 4th. So they were able to get their 4-night Western Caribbean cruise, outside balcony, $989. And then they do decide that they are going to invest in the refreshment drink package, which was $272. And then they just take advantage of the entertainment that's on the ship. They, they go to the casino, they go to karaoke. There's several live music venues. There's a piano bar. There are a couple of stage shows. There are all kinds of parties, the sail away party, there's just all kinds of stuff. So they just take advantage of all of that. And that's no additional charge. And they actually underspend the budget. And, they spend like 55% less than the Lees. The Millers also decide that they want to take a cruise, but they decide that they want to go on a cruise line that is adults only. They really like, the vibe of that particular ship. So now they've got to fly, nonstop to Miami, which was 7:32. They've got their 4-night outside balcony room, 1362. This particular cruise line had a promotion going on, and they typically always have some kind of promotion going on where they get a $300 complimentary bar tab. So, that was fine. So they do overspend, their $1,500 budget, primarily because of the airfare. So they're a little over 2,000. And then the Smiths, they also decide that they will do a cruise, 1140 for the cruise, but then they decide that, hey, they are on vacation. They don't have to drive anywhere. They go for the Cheers beverage package, which entitles them to unlimited alcoholic beverages, and that was $480. So, they overspend the budget a little bit, but they have the trip that they want. So I think this is a pretty realistic example of, 4 nights in Vegas. And if you want to do 4 nights in Vegas, there's nothing like 4 nights in Vegas. But if you're also looking at, hey, you want to go to a casino, you want to have fun, you want to do all this, cruising is a very, viable option for you. And then we're going to look at a family of 4. These folks are leaving from Chicago. And so here's a little bit about the family, what they want to do. They basically, are looking for the same kind of family fun experience. But when they look, okay, they're in Chicago, like none of the ports are super close. The closest port is Baltimore, and that's still about a 600 mile drive. So they decide, don't want to do that. Too much time in the car. So they decide, or the Andersons decide that they're going to drive to the Wisconsin Dells. So a little less than 200 miles. They stay at at a nice, decent hotel, 3-star hotel. They do a lot of things while they're there. There's lots and lots of stuff, to do in the Dells. They do buy groceries. And that was one of the reasons that they wanted to get the 2-bedroom suite, that it had a kitchen so that they could, make breakfast in the room and have, and just go to restaurants, for dinner and snacks, etc. So their family of 4 trip, almost $4,500. Okay. The Ellis family, and we can move on. The Ellis family decide that they do want to go on a cruise. So they don't want to do the drive to Baltimore, which was the closest port, and they didn't want to drive to any of those other places. They look and they try and figure out, okay, flying from Chicago, where can they get the best airfare? And they decide that they will fly to Houston. So for the 4 round trip nonstop tickets, they spent a little over $1,300 on their tickets. And then they spend $3,650 on the 7-night cruise. Okay. So their total, comes to $49.76, so almost 5,000. So they did spend about 500 more than the Andersons by taking a cruise, primarily because of the airfare. But one of the things that I would also invite you to consider, a vacation should be a vacation and should be fun and relaxing for everyone. For the family who went to the Wisconsin Dells, I'm sure they had a wonderful time, but there was also a lot of getting in the car, driving here, driving there, doing this, doing that, dealing with the kids. Unlike with a cruise, once you get on the ship, you are on the ship. There's no more driving that you have to do. There's lots and lots of stuff for for everybody to have a good time. And then also, particularly for parents traveling with children, all of the cruise lines that cater to families with young children have some type of child care facility. And these child care facilities are, have people who are trained in early childhood development, et cetera. So it also makes it a lot easier for the parents to enjoy the vacation as well. You can take your kids, put them in like the Adventure Ocean, which is the name of this particular cruise line's child care. And the kids are having a great time. They are having a ball. And then you and your travel partner can go to the 2-hour Broadway show. You and your travel partner can go, out to dinner, and there's just a lot less hassle. So the money is one part, but also the quality of the vacation is another part. Because these are, stressful times, and everyone is, entitled to a, stress-free, fun vacation. Because vacations really do matter. I mean, I think we know it intuitively, but studies also show, and prove that, taking time out for rest and relaxation, it's not only healthy for us, but it just gives us more energy to deal with whatever it is that we have to deal with. So thank you. I, would be happy to answer any questions you may have, and
All right,
just
we do have
really,
some questions.
yeah, great.
So let's go ahead and hop into those.
Okay.
Are prices higher on a cruise when it is a lower number of people going on a cruise, like on a river cruise?
Well, the prices are higher on a river cruise versus a contemporary cruise. It's not just so much about the number of people. It has more to do with the itinerary and the kinds of things that you're doing.
Couldn't find my unmute button there. Just a second. All right. Can you talk about why you would use a travel advisor versus doing it yourself or going to some sort of online booking system?
Well, I'd say that the major reason that you'd want to use a travel advisor is that travel has, it shouldn't be complicated, and oftentimes it's not complicated, but sometimes it is. And then why not have somebody on your side working to do some of the stuff that you don't want to do? And I'll tell you, like, when after the cruise lines got, shut down for a long time, and then cruising started up again. And this is definitely changed. You would call, and sometimes you could be on hold for literally hours, And do you want to be on hold for hours, or do you want your travel agent to be on hold for hours for you? And then, like, when I talk about things like the fare watch, I think the only way you could do that kind of fare watch on your own, if you're not working with a travel agent, you would have to physically call the cruise line every day and say, what's the fare today? What's the fare today? What's the fare today? So that just seems like a lot of, that just seems like a lot of unnecessary work when you can call your travel agent, have them set the fare watch, and then they have systems in place that can automatically do it. And then the other thing, when you're working with some of these, sites online, and you can, first of all, you can get very decent pricing. Typically, your travel advisor can get slightly lower pricing, but I feel like one of the reasons that you would want to work with a travel advisor is, 9 times out of 10, everything's going to go just fine. But that 1 time out of 10, when it doesn't, it's going to be extremely to virtually impossible to get the help that you need if something doesn't go right. So it's almost just a form of just insurance. So if something goes wrong, even though we understand, like more than likely it's not, if it does, you've got a particular person to call. And even like when you call the cruise lines, and I feel like the cruise lines are just, just wonderful. Every time you call, you're going to talk to a different person. You're going to have to, start your story all over again, versus when you're working with your travel advisor, they know the story, they care about you and what's going on. So I just, I just think it doesn't hurt. Now, some travel advisors will charge a fee to work with you, but even if they're charging a fee, it's generally, not much. Like $20, $30, and I think it's worth it. Just why do extra work that you don't have to?
For people that are going on their first cruise, you talk a little bit about how to prepare?
Well, I'd say that you would probably prepare for your cruise in the same way you would prepare for any other vacation. So just kind of like know where you're going, like what the temperature, what the temperature will be if you're going to a place that's if you think it's warm, just kind of like check those dates and see like what are the projections for what the weather will be, and dress appropriately. I'd say one thing that has probably changed over time, I think people don't need as many outfits as they may think they need, because almost like once upon a time with the cruise lines, you would have, you'd have to get formal nights for dinner, etc. And you might have like one night that's considered, it's not even a formal night, but and all the cruise lines have a different terminology for it, but you might have like one night where it's going to be like the dressier night, and you can or cannot, you can choose not to participate in that, but you kind of know that up front. So just kind of know like what to wear. Now, this is something that I think a lot of people who have never cruised before don't necessarily know. Like the cruise ships, the walls are made of metal. So you can get like those little metal hooks and bring those little metal hooks with you, and you can, clamp them. And that's where you can like hang your wet bathing suits and like your hats and whatnot. I see, I think a lot of people might not realize that, even though the cabins, your cabin is not going to typically be as big as a hotel room, but but the beds are made in such a way that you can store your luggage, like under the bed. So you really do have more space than you think. And I think sometimes people are concerned that, ooh, that they're going to be on this ship and they might get, seasick, etc. And that generally just does not happen, because particularly when you're on and now I'm talking about like your larger ships, these ships are so big, you could be on the interior of the ship and you would never even know that you're on the water. So
Very interesting. Very
yeah.
interesting. Last question here. Do they have special accommodations for people that are disabled or maybe have some medical needs?
Oh, just absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And some of the cruise lines are, I forget what it's called, but they are autism friendly, and they've got, all kinds of the people in the childcare centers are, trained in various aspects of autism. There are accessible cabins. There are you can get, if you're hearing impaired, there are devices that you can get. Most of the elevators have braille if you are sight impaired. If you need any type of medical equipment. Now, this is something that you have to arrange in advance, but you definitely can arrange that in advance. So if you say, oh, because of my condition, I can't, sleep lying flat. I need a hospital bed. You can have a hospital bed brought and put into the cabin. Or if you know that one of the night or one of the days you're gonna go on an excursion to the beach, you can arrange to have a beach wheelchair, at that particular place. If you're on dialysis, you can go on a cruise that where you can still continue to have your dialysis treatment. So pretty much I wouldn't say any condition, but cruise lines are very, 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 very like friendly to disabled.
We had another question that popped up. What sort of ID is required these days? Is the star on your driver's license required? Like if you're going out of country, do you need your passport? Talk about that.
You need your passport. Like if you're going to do a cruise, for instance, if you're going to do like a Mississippi River cruise, or if you're, staying in the US, then you would just need your driver's license. But if you are leaving the country, you definitely need a passport.
All right. Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for questions today. I want to thank Denise and for the expertise that she's given us today, and also to the organizations that have made this webinar possible today. Here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for your life and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Well, from Advice Chaser, thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you at another webinar soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.